Good morning, YouTubers. It's bright outside. It's very bright. That's why I got the shades. Looking all shady. Looking like a biker. With my Summon Demon shirt. Anyway, today's topic for Walking Thoughts is going to be my origin story. I guess like a summary of it. Panda out there in YouTube land has asked what my origin story for becoming a skeptic is. For those of you guys that are like new to the channel and just coming on board and all this. So figured I'd talk about that for a minute and say that it was a long journey. It was not something that was instant. It wasn't something where I just, decided one day I'm gonna be more skeptical than anything else. It was gradual, definitely gradual. I was a ghost hunter. Well, let's back up. Let's start at the beginning, children. So I was raised Catholic, and the belief was pounded into me that there is an afterlife and there are angels and demons and stuff like that. Demons were really not spoken of much. It was just like, yeah, they're real, but that's it. You don't talk more about angels because they're good guys. So angels were real, and ghosts were therefore real, and you could talk to them, and not necessarily like ghosts as in like they visited you, but spirits were still there. You could talk to your deceased loved ones and friends, stuff like that, and it was all kosher. Getting into high school, actually even before high school, I started doubting that. So testing things, because it was like a guilt trip to go to church. I had to go to church. I could be sick, like barely be able to stand sick, and got the guilt trip if I didn't go to church on Sunday. So that really made me start thinking about like or doubting my beliefs, because it's like, if I'm so, I'm barely able to walk, I feel terrible, but you're gonna go make me sit, stand, kneel with a whole bunch of other people, because Catholic mass, sit, stand, kneel, while I'm feeling so terrible, instead of just letting me rest and get better. So that's when my skepticism really started, to be honest. But I did have those kind of beliefs as my core beliefs. So when it came to ghost hunting, I believed ghosts were real. I believed that everything was a ghost. Anything creepy was a ghost. Places could definitely be haunted, without a doubt. I believe psychics could talk to ghosts. And then getting into ghost hunting with a small group in Philly, it was that orbs were real, and ectoplasm, which was the misty stuff, not the cheesecloth stuff from Victorian times, but ecto was real. Apparitions were super rare. Shadow people weren't a thing yet, and that's about it. And the more I attended like conferences, because they started doing conferences that I don't believe they had before. So we're talking like the late 90s, early 2000s. This was going on, where you started having these ghost conferences. And admittedly, it was in Gettysburg. So it became popular in Gettysburg because, that's one of the most famous battles of the Civil War here in the States. Lots of deaths, which the number fluctuates. And it also includes horses and stuff like that. So the number of dead fluctuates over time, depending on who you talk to. But it was always like 52,000 people died. We never included the horses, even though the horses are included in that number. Anyway, I'm getting off track here. So I started going there, and the more I guess I got into photography, the more I wanted to learn about how am I getting these weird anomalies. Oh, vortexes. Vortexes were popular then too. And that was like the line of orbs that usually was a double line, which were really camera straps. They were popular then too. But I wanted to know, like, why am I getting these? It's supposed to be rare. It's supposed to be something that's like you only get like 1 in a million shot, you know, according to hearsay. And why was I getting them? Why was my group getting them almost every time that we went out? That doesn't seem so rare. And it also doesn't, not only does it not seem so rare, but it also seems like this is repeatable. I also had the I guess belief that science was scared of what we knew. I had that mentality, a basic ghost hunting mentality back then, early 2000s again, that science didn't know everything, therefore that means ghosts are real because they just don't understand it and they're afraid to know what we know, and I know better than them, even though I didn't. There's that kind of mentality, and it's prevalent throughout the community still today. You have people that are weekend ghost hunters that read blogs or watch YouTube videos by other ghost hunters on different topics, and they think that they are experts now. They have expertise in various subjects, and that they know just as much as a scientist or someone that has studied a field of either biology, physics, chemistry, what have you, that the weekend ghost hunter knows more than they do, which is a behavior that we really need to overcome because it's silly. Anyway, still getting off topic here. So the more I questioned, the more my skepticism grew. And not only that, it wasn't really the more I questioned. The more I questioned was because of the more I learned. So I learned about photography. I learned about video editing. I learned about history of places and sound and stuff like that, and wondered what was going on. So I would look into it more. And the more I learned, the more questions I had, so I asked more questions and I learned some more. Where'd I go from there? Oh, well, in Gettysburg, I did have an experience that really turned the tide of what I was doing. So I've written about this. There's an article on skepticalenquirer.org that details this a little bit more. I'm going to summarize here and just say that I was in Gettysburg. We were in a spot where a lot of people claimed that stuff would happen. So we were set up. We weren't really set up. When I say set up, we were just standing there. It wasn't like we had multiple cameras set up. I mean, I did have one video camera set up on a tripod, but that's about it. Like, the rest of us were just standing around with our cameras or audio recorders waiting for something to happen. Something did happen. A couple cars, I think it was 3 cars. 3 cars pulled up across the field, and they pulled over into a like a visitor parking section. All the kids got out, and I say kids because I'm old now, so everyone's a kid to me. So the kids got out, and they were playing with laser pointers, which were probably attached to temperature guns at the time. They had those. They had flashlights. They were laughing. They were joking. They were screaming. They were scaring each other. They were doing all this kind of shit. And then they started walking towards us. So they're walking across what is called the wheat field to where we are. And I was getting angry because this was like a spot that we had heard about, we heard stories about, and we heard stories that the park rangers avoided this area because of so much activity, so we were excited to be there. And now these people were coming over here. They were going to discover us, and it was going to be spoiled. They're going to want to join us and stick around, and it's going to interrupt our standing around. It's amazing what people get pissed off about. I'm gonna be pissed off because people are gonna stand around and interrupt my standing around. Anyway, so I marched out of the woods, and I screamed at them to shut up and go away. And there was a lot more to it. It wasn't just a real quick shouting thing like that. I forget what I said. No idea. I was angry. They stopped, turned around and ran. Went back to their car, pulled away. That was it. Next day, we come down. It was at a conference. We were there in Gettysburg for a conference, for a ghost hunting conference, and it was more of a storytelling conference than anything else. And we heard that somebody saw an apparition last night, which again, back then, it was rare. You know, this wasn't something that happened like today. You know, everyone sees an apparition today in videos and their stories. Everyone and their grandmother sees apparitions. But back then, it was not as common. So we started asking questions and trying to figure out who it was, and finally got to the group that experienced it and realized it was the group from the night before. And long story short, they mistook me for an apparition, which I find comical because I'm very much solid. I had a photographer's vest on me with bulging pockets of batteries and flashlights and gadgets and stuff like that. I was dressed all in black because that was customary for ghost hunters. You know, the unwritten rule, always dressed in black. So I guess coming out of the woods at night dressed in black, they could barely see me and figured I was a ghost. No beard at the time, so there was no white around my face except for my face because I'm white. So I don't know. We argued. I brought up details about the group. They refused to believe that it could have been me. It could have been me. And they got mad, and they thought that I was trying to steal their attention, which I wasn't. It was my first real skeptical inquiry into a experience because I had questions. I had additional information that they didn't have, and I was trying to offer it to say, hey, I have an explanation for your experience. And they were more concerned about the attention they were getting than the truth. And that really made me think. Like, how many times did I do that? How many times did I or how many times did I ignore solid information, good information, factual information because it destroyed my belief? And that's something that we see common with not only the paranormal community, but belief structures anyway. When people read information that's backed by science or factual that go against or conflict with their beliefs, you get that cognitive dissonance that sets in. There's a battle in your head where you're thinking like, well, this is what I've always known, and this is what I'm learning now, and it contradicts what I know to be true in my heart, so I'm gonna go with what I already believe is true and ignore this new information, which it's a natural response for most of us, but it's a poor response for most of us because we're ignoring good information, not even checking to see if it's valid. And when it is valid, oftentimes people still ignore it. So in this case, it really it sparked an idea in my head, sparked a curiosity, which caused me to learn more about photography, because that was, again, it goes back to the question, like, why are we getting these things? So I really did a deep dive, start buying cameras to test them, to see, like, Do I get the same effect with all these cameras? Is there anything that is different between them? And that was really when my skepticism started to blossom. Because I was curious. I was doing what skeptics are supposed to do. We ask questions, we learn more about the topic, we try to understand it as completely as possible, and we make informed decisions and conclusions based on the information. So after that, the plane going by. Whee! After that, I kind of stopped doing the ghost hunting thing. Where no, I mean, I still did it. I went to places, but I was asking more questions. And the more questions that we asked, the more we learned, the more that these anomalies disappeared. And it wasn't because there was just like, you know, they were on strike and they were like, no, we're not performing anymore. It was just that I wasn't being fooled by ignorance anymore. I wasn't being fooled by misunderstanding. I mean, it still happened, don't get me wrong. It still happened because there was still a lot that I didn't understand. But at least I was starting to understand. So it was making that world of belief smaller and smaller. Because I would look at an experience and go, oh, you know what? I think I know what this is. Let me test it while I'm here and see if I can get the same effect. And that was leading to more knowledge, because now a new understanding, or better understanding, because I was doing it in the moment, which is what we're supposed to do. You have an experience, you try to recreate it at that moment, because that's the best time to do it. All the conditions are right. Excuse me. And you're in the location. Everything that on you is the same. You want to do it in the moment when you can, and it creates better understanding. So yeah, after that, it kicked off my thirst for knowledge, and I wanted to learn more and more, especially about photography, because that was a big part of this community. Photography, video was becoming a really big part of it. People were using cassette tape videos, but then also moving into more and more as video cameras became more advanced, smaller, more affordable. People were using them more, so it behooved me to learn more about video editing and what people can do, and that's pretty much it. I mean, that's my origin of becoming a skeptic, because it just grew. And now I spend every day learning more and more about techniques and methods, special effects, what could be, how to ask questions, how to interview people. Over the years, you start learning and understanding that there's questions to be asked, whether they're uncomfortable or not. You still need to ask them, because you need that information. Yeah, is that it? I'm trying to think if I missed anything. I don't think so. I think skepticism is not bad. I just want to say that it's not bad. It's having doubts, and that's what it is. We really have to remember, keep in mind all the time, that skepticism is about having doubt. Somebody makes a claim and it doesn't sound right to us. So whether it is right or not, if it doesn't sound right, the skepticism that we should be performing, that I think we should be performing, is to inquire more information. Inquire about more information. Inquire about the topic. Ask questions. Learn about it. But deepen your understanding of the subject matter. And that way it becomes more clear to you, and then you'll be able to figure out in a better informed fashion if there's validity to the claim or not. And that's across the board. not just paranormal stuff. Remember, skepticism is not just exclusive to paranormal beliefs. Skepticism is all inclusive in life, whether it's, you know, your new furniture that you're considering buying, medical treatments, cleaning products that you're buying for the house, and just anything that comes up where you're like, I don't know if that's right. I do that a lot when Donna says, well, you know, they say. As soon as they say comes up, skepticism pops in. And it's like, all right, who's they? You know, like, that's the first question. Who is they? I want to know who they are, because if they don't exist, then there's a problem with the claim from the beginning. Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to add. I don't think there is. No, I don't think so. I think I'm going to wrap it up because I'm trying to see what the time is. Yeah, it's over 20 minutes. So I'm trying to keep these around 20 minutes, definitely under a half hour. So I hope you guys enjoyed this story of the origin of my skepticism. And I hope it shed some light or help you better understand who I am and why I do what I do. And that I'm not out to poo-poo on people's beliefs. I mean, I know it probably looks like that sometimes, but as I always say, like, if somebody puts the belief out there in public, it's open to scrutiny. It's not something that is protected. It's not something that you shouldn't touch because it's taboo or something like that. No, if you preach your beliefs, whether they're religious beliefs or paranormal beliefs or whatever beliefs, and you put them in the public, they're open for criticism. Because if you're preaching to the public, I have just as much right to preach to the public. And if I think, based on research, based on my information that I have, that your claims are doing harm or could potentially do harm to other people, mislead them, especially for profit, then I feel I have an obligation to voice my opinion as well. But then again, on the other side of that coin, if you keep your beliefs personal and it's just for you, okay, you know, like, that's you do you, as long as it doesn't hurt other people. That's all right, I want to wrap this up. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you have a great day, and remember, never stop learning, and I'll see you later.